there, welcome into the show. Hope everybody out there is doing well. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr., and coming up, we're going to do our weekly mailbag segment where I take questions from the faithful right here on the show. But before we take your questions and chop it up with the Niner gang, the 49ers Report is Combine bound. I will be in Indianapolis this upcoming week for the NFL Scouting Combine. John Lynch is going to be there, and according to reports, Kyle Shanahan is going to be there as well. People are talking, and I may have convinced him to finally go to Indianapolis. So don't miss our coverage. Subscribe to the channel for draft and combine content as we approach 160,000 subscribers. We open up the floor, and we begin with this. Solaris MC, $5 in British pounds. This is the Worldwide Niners show here on YouTube. If Davante Adams ends up being a bust and doesn't live up to the potential hype, would you hope that there's a backup plan? Well, the backup plan would be that Ricky Pearsall could have a breakout sophomore campaign. And obviously his rookie season didn't start off in an ideal fashion. In training camp, he was dealing with a couple of different injuries. He had the shoulder ailment earlier on in the spring and summer. He was dealing with some other injuries. And then right before the season, after he doesn't even play at all in the preseason, he gets shot in the chest. And then he misses a lot of time. And he comes back and showed some flashes. The end around against the Dallas Cowboys, in which he ran for 40+. The 35, 36-yard touchdown against the Buccaneers. He had some wiggle. He had some breakaway speed, the little stutter step to get to the pylon to beat one of the top safeties in the game, and Antoine Winfield to the end zone. That was a good play. Then he went on this stretch where he didn't do anything. He didn't produce. But then in the end of the year, he put up some really solid numbers and had some really good performances. And you saw what the Niners saw in him by taking him with the 31st overall pick. And so if Davante Adams doesn't work out, even if he does work out, you are hoping that Ricky Pearsall can live up to the billing of being that first-round pick. Niners have had a lot of whiffs in the first round under John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. You hope that Ricky Pearsall isn't another one of them. And I'll tell you this, he's also important because you don't know when Brandon Ayuk's going to be able to come back or what type of player he's going to be after that major knee reconstruction. And so I'd sign Davante Adams if the Niners move on from Deebo because he's Ayuk insurance. He's still a really good player who's putting up really good production. And you need a wide receiver regardless of if Pearsall steps up and breaks out. Now, you still have Jawan Jennings and Jacob Cowing. Jennings coming off a career year in 2024, but the point here being Niners need another wide receiver if they move on from Deebo. And I think that Davante Adams can be that player, and they can get him at a pretty affordable rate. Hingle McCringleberry. By the way, this segment is one of the funniest segments I've ever seen. I feel like if we trade Deebo, it'll be a Saquon situation. Just a feeling. The Giants didn't trade Deebo, but I get what you're saying, that if Deebo were to go somewhere else, that he would have a Saquon Barkley type of season. I don't see that happening. Saquon Barkley had been a productive player the last couple of years that he was with the Giants. He was also putting up good numbers despite having horrendous offensive lines, no good quarterback play, and limited weapons around him with the defense that also wasn't that good. Whereas Deebo Samuel has played on loaded teams, the downslope of his numbers have taken place really since he signed that contract extension going into 2022. To the eye and on the stat sheet, didn't look like the same guy in 2024. He, according to reports, was playing 20 pounds overweight. So yeah, to your question or to your statement, could Deebo shed some weight? Could he be a little bit lighter? And could he have a bounce back season in 2025? Yeah, he might be able to do that. But Saquon Barkley literally had the best season that any running back has ever had. He ran for more than 2,000 yards in the regular season. He ran for the most rushing yards in the history of the NFL in a single season, regular season and postseason combined, and he was a bona fide MVP candidate. I don't see Deebo going somewhere and being a bona fide MVP candidate. That's just me. John Craighead. What's up, Chase? What's up, John? Who is your number one wish for the Niners in free agency? Well, if you've been watching the show over the last couple of years, you know that I've said time and time again, the Niners need to get better along the offensive line. And that is priority number one for me this year. Get better along the offensive line, get better along the defensive line. They have to rebuild and retool the trenches. And so on the offensive side of the football, my dream scenario is signing center Drew Dalman of the Atlanta Falcons. He's 26 years old. He's a good scheme fit. He's an excellent run blocker, good pass blocker, very athletic. He'd be able to operate Kyle Shanahan's scheme. The Niners have been willing to invest in the center position with players like Weston Richburg and Alex Mack, and I think that they would be willing to invest in Drew Dalman. So he's my top priority because then you can address left guard and right tackle in the NFL draft. What say you? Biggest need for the Niners in free agency is what? Join the conversation down in the comment section right now. This 49ers polo, by the way, is on sale thanks to our friends at Fanatics. What an incredible deal. It was $80. It is now just $43. It's very easy. All you have to do is go to chatsports.com/49polo. You can get yours today. It's the same coach's polo that I wear during our watch party. So instead of wanting mine, like some people have requested, you can just get your own, and we can all wear them together. Faithful to the Bay. It would be awesome to have both Bosa brothers on the team. See, in theory, it'd be cool. It sounds fun. But here's the issue with Joey Bosa. He's been injury prone. He's rarely been available. And his production hasn't been that good. And so it would be a cool story to root for to see Joey Bosa and Nick Bosa, two brothers, playing edge rusher for San Francisco and trying to hunt the opposing quarterback. But while Nick Bosa has been able to hunt the quarterback, collapse the pocket, generate pressures and sacks, Joey Bosa hasn't been able to do that at nearly the same rate. And the issue, too, with Joey Bosa with the Chargers, he's made so much money, and he hasn't come close to living up to that contract. Now, if he were to get let go, if the Niners were to sign him for cheap, they need edge help, yeah, I'd take a flyer on Joey Bosa if it's for a very affordable rate. But if he's looking for $15, $20 million, no chance. Mr. Black Ice, so what is up with our kicker situation? It's one that we're going to continue to monitor, and when John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan address the media next week in Indianapolis for the NFL Scouting Combine, as Kyle Shanahan is actually expected to go this year, it's one of the questions that we're going to have to ask. Jake Moody was drafted in the 3rd round. He had a pretty good rookie season. He was dreadful in year 2 after he came back from his injury. He connected on like 10 of 18 of his field goals. He looked lost. It looked as though he lost all of his confidence. He had no belief that he was going to be able to split the uprights, even on chip shots and extra points. And then on kicks of 40-plus, 50-plus yards, he was, as Charles Barkley would say, terrible. And so I think the Niners should admit that they made a mistake by taking him in the 3rd round. They should try to find a better kicker. At the very least, if he's still on this team, bring in kicker competition to push him, because competition brings the best out of everybody, and he needs a kick in the ass. Samuel Crosby, how much money will Brock Purdy get on his new contract? Ideally, it's $40 to $50 million. That's what I would love to pay him. What do I think he could get? And what do I think he will get? 50 to 60. Now, Jalen Hurts is getting paid more than $50 million, and his passing numbers are average to very good to sometimes pedestrian, but I will say he picked apart that Steve Spagnuolo defense that the Niners struggled against. He has 7 touchdowns and 2 Super Bowl appearances against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. He's outplayed Mahomes in those 2 Super Bowls. And so Brock Purdy didn't play poorly by any means in Super Bowl 58, but the Philadelphia Eagles do serve as a blueprint for how to beat Kansas City and how to win a Super Bowl. Have a good offensive line, have a good defensive line, and then have your best players step up in the biggest of games. And you can win a Super Bowl when your quarterback has an average annual value of 50+. And hopefully the Niners and Brock Purdy are the next team to do that. Joseph Woodard, do you think that we could get Myles Garrett, Cooper Kupp, or Davante Adams? I think the Niners, if they really wanted to, could trade for Myles Garrett, but it would take 2 first-round picks. And I don't think the Niners are willing to give up 2 first-rounders for Myles Garrett. I would, because I don't think any player who you draft is going to be better than Garrett, and I think he greatly improves your Super Bowl chances. And when you have Garrett on one side, Nick Bosa on the other, can't double-team those players. If you get better along the defensive tackle spot and along the interior of your defensive line, you can win those matchups, and you can bother any quarterback out there, and I'd take that Niners defensive line over almost any defensive line in the NFL, and I think they could win a lot of matchups and cause havoc against a lot of other O-lines. And look at the Eagles' blueprint for success. 25 pressures without blitzing against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. 6 sacks against Mahomes without sending pressure once. What does that allow you to do? 7 guys on the back end to do their job. And when you can hold up on that back end and you can get home with 4, that is the recipe to beat any quarterback in the NFL. The Eagles made Patrick Mahomes look human. And so I'm looking at that Eagles performance if I'm San Francisco, and I'm saying we need to replicate that. We need to get better along the offensive line, better along the defensive line. I would make the trade for Myles Garrett. Wouldn't trade for Cooper Kupp. I wouldn't trade for Davante Adams, but I would sign him if the Jets cut him. I think that he has plenty left in the tank, whereas I think Cooper Kupp starting to get a little bit leaky with the gas tank. Today's poll question, will the Niners be back in the playoffs next year? P for playoffs, M for miss. Sound off with what you think, and as you venture down there, don't forget to subscribe.